Hey, so I'm long-winded apparently because I got cut off. That's all right. So I think where I left off was talking about the oh, there we go. The children. And I also realized the frame has been cut off. So we were just talking about seeing a person as a person, not an object or a cause, the way that Jesus tends to see people, the women at the well, and Nicodemus, and everybody that he encountered, the tax collectors, etc., that Jesus saw people as people. Okay, moving on to the following chapters, the trial begins, and it's interesting the way that they talk about this. It's as the county went by us, the whole county, women in entire wagon loads of women, or people without buttons, and people came out of the woods that we never see. And so it's kind of an interesting read if you just want to check that out. The courthouse square was covered in picnic parties, and it was a gala occasion. Now, they asked Miss Maudie, "Are you going to go to the trial?" And Miss Maudie says, "No, I'm not going to go. This is not cause of an occasion. A man's life is at stake. He's going to die." And it really does point out the spectacle that this is, and how could people be so okay with what this trial represents. And so just, keeping that in mind. So this is the second instance of the error in the narrative point of view because of the cause of awareness. This text is specifically at this point is going to bias against the African American experience, because Scout is ignorant as a narrator, and she has been informed by racist individuals. In the middle of this chapter, there's a section where it shows the contrast between the white people having a picnic lunch and then the African Americans having a picnic lunch, and they start talking about, well, what does it mean to be African American? And they're looking at they say, like, well, even if you have one drop of blood, you're basically less than. And it brings to mind the quote that one of our articles had talked about last week. It says, it's from W.E.B. Du Bois, and he said, "It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness. There's a sense of always looking at yourself through the eyes of others, and measuring your soul by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity." And the problem again here is that with that perspective, you don't understand that the African Americans are always thinking, what are others, like, everyone else is judging me. Everybody else thinks I'm less than, I'm worthless, I'm nothing. And you have to continually kind of reorient yourself to, this is what I'm thinking, but this is what other people are thinking. This is what I believe is true. This is my impulse, but I can't do this. I have to go sit in the second tier balcony. I have to sit on this other location. You're always having to second guess everything that you do to make sure that you are in accordance with some social order that is completely made up. And so, it is a bit racist and prejudiced what is written in this section, and we're meant to understand that that's a failing of this book because it's given to us in ignorance through Scout. So she overhears a conversation, and a man is saying, "Well, let me tell you something. The court appointed him, Atticus, to defend Tom Robinson." So they're basically saying Atticus doesn't want to do this. He has to do this because the court told him to. And then the other person says in sort of a snide way, "Yeah, but Atticus aims to defend him, and that's what I don't like about it." It would have been typical, and was typical at this time, for, okay, fine, you have to have a trial. Let's give this a trial. And the lawyer would not even try. They would maybe call up the witness and be like, "Well, that's what the person says." And then they would sit down and they wouldn't even try. And then the African American would die unjustly because his case was not heard effectively or truthfully. And Atticus knows that they're not going to win, but he's going to try because his objective is truth. And so we're going to switch over for a second to the handout that I want you to go over. And then, as I said, and I think the other video, please watch some scenes from YouTube, because this trial is, I can explain it, but it's really best to look at it through the eyes of the kind of the camera lens, because it will help give you a little bit more perspective. All right, which of my tabs? Not that one. Okay, so we're going to look at this handout for just a bit, and I again am going to link this on the portal. But in order to fully understand these chapters, we really need to get a sense of what's going on here. Now, some of you might be familiar with the courtroom and the different scenes and the different players. I think a lot of people aren't. And so I wanted to go over a couple of different things. So in the court, all people have a right to legal counsel. So you have a right to be represented by a lawyer. And it's basically against the law to not be represented by a lawyer. And so then there's the plaintiff. This is the person or the group who brings a case against another in court. They accuse them of something. And so in this case, our plaintiff, and there's this handy little chart down here, if I can scroll up. Our plaintiff is going to be Mayla Ewell, and she is the one who's going to be accusing Tom Robinson of something. So she's our plaintiff. The lawyer for her, for the plaintiff, is the prosecuting attorney, and the prosecuting attorney in this case is Mr. Gilmer. He's bringing the case against Tom Robinson. And this group all together, the plaintiff and the prosecuting attorney, is known as the prosecution. The defendant then is the person being accused, and so Tom Robinson is obviously the defendant. He's defending himself, or his lawyer is defending him from punishment. The lawyer is the defense attorney, and so this is Atticus. This group as a whole is known as the defense. During court, a judge will preside over the courtroom proceedings, and we'll get to know these characters a little bit more because it's important to know who they are. And then they're going to ask the defendant, how do they plead, guilty or not guilty? The attorneys will give opening arguments to the jury, and then the people, after the arguments are given, will decide the verdict or the outcome of the case. And so this is a trial by jury. The bulk of the courtroom trial is examination and cross-examination of witnesses, so people who saw or have information regarding the crime. And so we'll see that there are a slew of witnesses that we don't quite know who they are yet, and we'll look into those characters as the play goes on. Book. As it plays out. And then this is kind of the setup of the courtroom. So over here you have the jury box. This is the judge's bench. This is the witness stand, the plaintiff's table and the defendant's table. So this is the defendant, which would be Tom Robinson. The plaintiff is going to be Mayla Ewell. And this is the gallery. So this is packed. Everybody comes out to this trial. And there's even like a top story. And that's where you go to stand if you're African American. So this kind of like organizes it all for you. If you haven't read that far yet, you'll get to understand that she's accusing Tom Robinson of raping her. And Tom Robinson is basically saying, no, I didn't do that. And his reason, his alibi, the reason why he couldn't commit the crime was that he claims his left arm is not functional. So she argues and kind of acts out. And that's why you have to look at this because of how Atticus cross-examines her. She argues that he punches her with his left arm and like holds her down and chokes her. And the problem is, the Atticus argues he can't. His left arm is complete. He got it caught in something when he was a child, and it's completely shriveled. It doesn't. It's just kind of there. And so there's no way he could have committed the crime. However, oh yeah. So and she claims that he hit her on the right side of the face. So if you need to like picture this, and Atticus acts it out, but like if you're punching somebody with your left arm, boom. I don't know how to punch people, but you punch the person, it's not going to hit them, or it's going to hit them on the right hand side of their face. Yeah, you can't punch someone on the left hand side of their face. It doesn't work. Anyway, so Atticus points that out, and he's like, it could not have been Tom Robinson that did that. And in the end, he makes the argument it was your father that beat you up. And there's so much more to it, like why this happened, why she was accused of this. So read the chapters, please. But here are the witnesses. Heck Tate, who is the sheriff, and then Mayla Ewell. Bob Ewell is her father, and Tom Robinson. So there's a couple things you could kind of fill in, analyze if you wanted to, but I give you the answers down below. So here's the graphic organizer of the different characters and the testimony that they provide, and then how the children react to it, and then maybe like your reaction to it. I think that's kind of what I would expect from this. And so you have the witnesses, hectate, and we'll go over this in in another video later, but these are all of the witnesses and then kind of what they argue and then the children's reactions. And so those are important things to look at if you want to fully understand what's going on here. And like I said, I'll probably do another video where I analyze each of those characters for you, because I think they're just, I don't know, it's interesting because it's for the cause of justice and people's stories are being manufactured and it's just not right. So we need to get to the cause of justice. And then the second thing I'm asking you to do is analyze Atticus's closing argument. It's extremely well written and insightful and wise. It's written out here as well. Just a couple of features from it. To begin with, this case should never have come to trial. The state has not produced one iota of medical evidence to the crime that Tom Robinson is charged with ever took place. It has relied upon the testimony of two witnesses whose evidence has not only been called into serious question, but it has been flatly contradicted by the defendant. There is no evidence that, and so he goes on and he says, I have pity in my heart for the witness. Then he closes and he turns, like, that's why I wanted you to see that acted out. He turns to the jury and he stares them down and he says, Gentlemen, in this country, our hearts are the great levelers. In our courts, all men are created equal. I am no idealist to believe firmly in the integrity of our courts and the jury system. That's no ideal to me. That is a living, working reality. I'm confident that you gentlemen will review without passion the evidence that you have heard. Come to a decision and restore this man to his family. In the name of God, do your duty. In the name of God, believe Tom Robinson. It's just sort of like this beautiful, moving, heartfelt speech that you really ought to read and watch. And then the outcome comes after that. So I don't know if that will be for this week. I think it is for another video. So I think that's all I have. Oh yes, I promised another glimpse at my secret life. This was my first car and I really liked it. So that is one other picture. And then, oh yeah, this was one afternoon surfing with my brother. And then this is after work. This is what I used to do, where I used to go and hang out after I get off of work at Laguna Beach High School. It was pretty great. I don't think I have any pictures of my after work scenes from Yakima. Let me think. Nope, nothing. Okay, well, anyway, enjoy your Wednesday evening or whenever you watch this. It'll probably be Tuesday at some point. And read the book.